Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me f***ed up. Let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough. I'll take a face full of pavement. Just
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to we'll say a spontaneous episode of G7I International. As we mentioned on social media, guys, last week was really hectic with everybody's schedules. So we're sorry we didn't get an episode out for you guys midweek and also yesterday, but here it is. Stephen and I are here. We're going to be back on a regular schedule after this, but we're here to talk about Panetolikos and what's going on in the league so far. But before we go too much further, we do have some quick housekeeping. Guys, Olympiacos DC, they did draw their last match of the season. They were up 2-0 at halftime. They drew 2-2. That means that going into the playoffs, they are in the playoffs. They have a home match this weekend, this Saturday at Annandale High School. They are playing their first in the semifinals, and the game will be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. It is huge. We're hoping we can get them to the finals again and beyond. So we are trying to organize as many people as possible to go out there this Saturday. So if you can, guys, please make it out there this Saturday. It would be great to show support for the team. We're trying to get a lot of people out there. Real quickly, thank you to our sponsor, Paredes International. Paredes International is your one-stop shop for all your international transshipping needs. If you need any help for anything with freight forwarding, just contact our friends at 410-675-4696 or give an email to sales@piraeusintl.com. And guys, before we go any further, if you haven't done so already, please drop a like or subscribe. Really quick, it helps us. The more people that can subscribe, the more people that give us a like, it boosts the algorithm and it helps more Olympiacos fans like yourselves find us. So the more of you that do that, please, the bigger this community will become. And lastly, we have one new ad read, guys. We're getting up in the world. So just a little bit first, this is going to be the first one for us. So let's see we have a little deal for you guys. Maybe you'll like it. So support for G7I International is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, my friends. They just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. That's it, boys. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code G7INTL at Manscaped, and use that at manscaped.com. Steven, I don't know about you, man, but I'm a hairy dude, and we Greeks, we're pretty hairy guys. And
mate, every time I try shave, it's like I've grown a beard back immediately afterwards.
My friend, I get the 5 o'clock shadow on my whole
Literally.
body. Exactly. And it's like I have a second sweater. And growing up, it was always tough because it's so annoying to deal with that. And you always find other products that end up clipping. It's awful. Bad experiences. You know how it is. It's tough. But let me tell you guys, this bad boy right here, this thing is something else. I never would have guessed. I never would have checked this thing out otherwise. But this is right here. This is the real deal. We have a video coming out tomorrow. Obviously, before we were messing with anybody's family jewels, we wanted to make sure this thing worked. So I shaved my buddy's head with it. And let me tell you guys, this thing is amazing. So don't forget, get 20% off and free shipping with the code G7INTL at manscaped.com. And that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Don't forget to use the code G7INTL. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Well, Steven, let's get right to it, man. Let's get to the game. So give me your first thoughts. When you saw the lineup, did you guess that we were probably going 4-3-3?
Nope. No, it wasn't. It wasn't one that I thought would happen. To be honest, Adi, I was a little bit surprised to see Ronnie Lopez in the starting lineup. But I was also a little bit pleased for him because I've always said throughout the season he hasn't really been given the opportunity to properly show himself. And as we're going to get into the game more, he did show his talents a lot more. And yeah, it was just another one of those games where it didn't feel quite right, if you go. I mean, like nothing seemed to click. The players seemed tired. There was some rotation, but not quite as much as I would have liked it. And certainly, I know for a fact that other people didn't like either. But as always, I'm Mr. Positive, so I can always take what I get from this team. We won. Tiquinho scored. El Arabi continues scoring as well. Ronnie Lopez with the assist. So there's things to be positive about, but unfortunately, as with the positives, there have to be the negatives and the constructive criticism. And Panetolikos have given us games where we struggled against them last season in the league. This was the same scoreline away to them. And yeah, and we spoke about this before the pod itself. The stats kind of flatter us a little bit. Like it looks like we absolutely destroyed them, and we probably could have scored a few more. And even after watching the game myself, I looked at the stats and I was like, oh, well, maybe I maybe my eyes deceived me. But then upon looking back at the extended highlights, I was like, oh no, that wasn't the case at all. We weren't great for big parts of the game, to be honest.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. I mean, we had a couple of decent opportunities, right? Not all of them were garbage, but a lot of them were garbage. Like the first few opportunities before the Tiquinho, the goal off of the corner, the Madi shots, the Masura shot, those were just not great opportunities, or not opportunities that realistically
they weren't really quality chances. They were half chances at best.
Right. And after Tiquinho scored, we didn't have another solid opportunity until the Agipu Camara, that volley, that like half attempted volley. Because had he made good contact there, that's a solid opportunity. And even if we're looking at the metrics, the Wyscout XG on that was 0.25. So that was actually, if we're talking about the data, that was our best opportunity of the game minus the penalty. So if we're not counting the penalty, then that was the best opportunity we had in the game. If we remove the penalty from the equation, so our total XG for the game was 1.94. If we remove the penalty from the equation, we're sitting at 1.18. Now, that's not to say that Panetolikos was that much better. Their total game XG was 0.45, which most of that came from the Vergos opportunity. But then besides that, the other opportunities they had were like nothing. So we can say, look, like it's not like they threatened us that much, but they're left a lot to be desired with some of our possession play. And that continues to be a theme here. We may dominate teams in possession here and there, but then it's what is going on with that final third product? Where's the ingenuity? Why does it feel like we can't make anything happen? Why does it feel like we're watching paint dry with these games? And it's tough, but I am seeing a bit of a pattern here, because the way, at least in the first half, the game started to play out, the shape, that 4-3-3 shape, is just awful for us. The last time we saw it was in the first half against Frankfurt, and it was garbage.
What happened there? What happened when we played 4-3-3 then?
And I said this in my analytics blog with Frankfurt. We never played 4-3-3 all season. Why the hell are we using it? And why the hell are we using it now? I know it's Panetolikos, but what is going on? We should be pumping this team. The 4-2-3-1 in the first half against Bog, we looked like how we should look. Okay, forget what happened in the second half. The second half was ugly. But I mean, the first half was fantastic. It was all us. Now we go against Panetolikos, and we look like, even with all of the possession in the world, it just looked ugly. I'm confused as to why we keep going to the 4-3-3. I don't think we have the personnel to really pull that off.
And even then, we don't have the personnel to a certain extent. But even then, like, we're never going to see Koundé play in that midfield three? So what's the point in playing 4-3 or even trying to play 4-3-3 if you don't play those three players? You don't play Yann M'Vila, Mady Camara, and Koundé together, because then even if it doesn't work to its fullest capabilities, at least you have a bit more dynamism to try and play something like that. And as you said, like, I don't understand if it's not going to work against teams like Panetolikos, no disrespect to them, obviously, but they're a lower tier Greek side who we should be, like you said, we should be completely dominating and comfortably defeating, when it wasn't as comfortable as we'd like to see against that caliber of opposition, especially when we're about to play Frankfurt again in Piraeus in a couple of days. So I don't really know what Martins is trying to think of, when maybe he's doing this in preparation. Maybe we're going to see 4-3-3 again. I hope we don't, because as we saw against Frankfurt and in this game, it isn't working for the team. So I'm struggling to see what he's trying to do with our team right now. But hopefully he's formulating something that's like, maybe I don't know. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I'm just as confused as you are, to be honest.
Yeah, and when we're talking about how the game looks data-wise, right? You see that our overall possession was over 70%. There were large parts of the game where we were in the upper 80s in terms of possession. We attempted over 600 passes this match. That's one of the highest numbers in terms of how much volume the ball we had. Relatively decent match tempo. But I have an interesting statistic for you, Stephen. And guys, we're gonna be using some of these stats because there's no post-match analytics. I'm sorry about that. I was away for the weekend, so I'm not going to get the writing one. But 603 passes attempted. Only 11% of our passes made their way to the final third. That is the lowest proportion. That is the lowest percentage of our total number of passes that we've ever had in a game all season forward. And that tells you something. We can move the ball around as much as we want in the midfield or in the back, but we don't do anything forward. We can't penetrate the final third. What is going on there? 11%. Stephen, with over 600 passes, that's not even 66 passes that occurred in the final third. That's unacceptable. How can we hope to do anything against Frankfurt when we can barely make chances happen? This is kind of scary, and it's been a little bit of a theme all season. It's just giving me some worries going into that game, because we need to win that game at home. Not just to put ourselves back at the top of the group, but to secure qualification. The qualification is in our grasp already. We've done so well with the first 3 games so far. Well, forget Frankfurt. We won the first 2 games of the group. That put us in such a good position. You know what I mean?
And to throw that away, and obviously it's still we still have those 3 games to play, but if we were to throw that away after those 3 games, it would be that much more frustrating, because we not only can we seal top 2 right now, we can seal top. If we beat, like you said, if we beat Frankfurt, that puts us in such a good stead. And I keep saying this, we need to get top, because then we don't have to play that round of 32 playoff tie against a Champions League side that will inevitably fall out of the Champions League in 3rd place. And judging by how some of those bigger teams are performing in the Champions League this season, we're going to inevitably get a bigger side if we even reach 2nd place. And even then, if we let's say worst comes to worst, we lose our last 3 games, that's the very worst case scenario. We might finish 3rd. We might finish, very unlikely at this point, with 6 points, but we might even finish bottom. That's worst case scenario, though.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good look. Quick comment here. Got a couple comments rolling in. Roman Smirnavius, hello there, guys. Sitting on a chill working shift from home and listening to you, music to my ears. Roman, thank you so much, man. You've been around since the beginning. Thank you for continuing to listen in. We do love it and appreciate it. There's a couple of players that I want to kind of focus on, right? And I'd like to start with actually one that was pretty positive, and that was Rony Lopez. Rony Lopez finally had a solid game. He finally did a little bit more of what we expected. So I was pretty happy with that because finally we're starting to see maybe he's not a dud. Maybe it did, he looks like he cut some of the weight. He was a little bit quicker. He really was the only player that could take people on at all. So I was really happy to see that. And that gives me a little bit of, let's say, positivity looking ahead towards that Frankfurt game. Even though he was playing wide out on the wing. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, finally we saw a bit more of that flair connecting in the game, because so far we've seen flashes of what he's capable of, but then always it comes up too short, and then a player intercepts the ball off him immediately, or his pass isn't completed or whatnot. And it was so nice to see him actually get to do what he does best, and whether that's down to his mentality change, like you said, the weight loss to give him a bit of an extra push. It seems to be working. And again, it's against Panetolikos and it's one game, but we got to take the positives. And if this is, and hopefully he can build on this and leading on to the rest of the season, because we were talking a week ago about him maybe being one of those players whose loans are going to get cut short. By January, we were almost expecting him to, be sent back to Sevilla. So if he can perform like this consistently enough from now, I think he'll see out the rest of the season in Piraeus.
Our good friend here, Doron Tor, runs a podcast for Nottingham Forest, asking if we can take Cafu back, please.
No, please.
I'm sorry, buddy.
No.
We already shipped off Thiago Silva, so we didn't make out in that deal either.
Although I will say to him, I'm glad for him that Forest have started playing better, because I've been following his stuff and they've started playing well now, and I've been glad that they've turned around their poor start to the season.
Yeah, it's our brother club. We like to see them doing well. Maybe they can have a lovely push towards the midseason and end of the season to push for promotion. I don't know if that's possible. I haven't checked the championship table.
Well, you never know. You never know. But teams in the championship can suddenly go from relegation candidates to playoff places in a matter of a few weeks. So
that is very true. That is very true. But going back to the conversation at hand with Rony Lopez, he's a guy that when he came in, we watched the tape, we saw what he could do. And we saw that this is a guy, look, without Fortounis, this is a guy that can have similar impact for us. This is somebody that can take a guy on, make defenders commit and free up space for people making moves around him. I mean, also the guy barely put a foot wrong. 30 of 33, 91% pass accuracy.
That's
sitting
what we
out
want
on the
to see
wing
from him, though. He's of that caliber. He's one of those players that can do the unexpected, like Fortounis can, and that's maybe something we're missing from this team, because a lot of the players, what you're going to get, whereas you need even though flair players are a little bit out of fashion now, you still need those flair players. I still like to have a flair player like Lopez or Fortounis in the team to bring them on or have them in the starting line, just to give that bit of extra oomph that the team needs to kind of create something out of nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, besides the assist for the goal, which came off of a set piece, he had two other key passes before that, passes that led directly to a shot. I mean, the guy made a lot happen, and being on the wing and having almost 40 touches, that is solid volume for a winger. That is something that Podence used to do. We used to see him get involved a lot, get a lot of volume, a lot of touches on the ball, a lot of service in. Another funny thing too, he only had 2 crosses, and they both, at least connected. They at least hit people. We had 24 crosses that match, and we only connected 5 of them. Look, we haven't had the major crossing volume a lot since the start of this season, so it is nice to see it. But I want to see us connect more than 5.
It's about the quality of them, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's unfortunately that's one thing I don't think is ever going to change, because we've always brought up that Martins is a volume guy. He's concerned about getting that crossing volume in because, more often than not, maybe something will happen. It also helps stretch the defense. But I think when I saw how the number of crosses we had, I saw it as, look, we don't have any other ideas. We're not breaking down the defense very well. So we're forcing these balls to the wings and hoping that our strikers and our forwards can do something about it. very, very worrying stuff for me against a team with the caliber of Panetolikos.
Yeah. And of course, Vergos came back to bite us as well. You know, former Olympiacos Youth Academy player who we deemed surplus to requirements, was at Real Madrid Castilla, was at Panetolikos very briefly as well. And of course, I said in my blog, he's going to be trouble, and he gave us trouble with that equalizer. And the defending for that equalizer is something that I'm not worried about, but it is something that I was surprised at, because we're normally quite good at cancelling out those kind of counterattacks. And for some reason, nobody was defending the left. Oleg was nowhere to be seen. Bar did not have the best of games. He hasn't really shown himself in a good light for a lot of us in a while now, and it's starting to worry me about Bar, because he was so good last season, and I think it's just something's gone with him mentally. I think he's just not quite there.
Well, you're 100% right. And ever since we heard that statement from him, do you remember when he said, "Oh, I think I'm ready for the Premier League. I've won everything here." Ever since then, you're right. He hasn't been there mentally. I mean, there's just been something there, almost as if he thinks he deserves it. And you're right. We have seen a worse version of him. And every game now, you know what I mean? Ever since that the first red card, the Arsenal red card, he hasn't learned from that mistake. He had a couple bad we almost ate a penalty against Panetolikos. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's got to be more careful. And, when we say that he had a bad game, we're not saying that, oh, this guy's dreadful. This isn't like Roderick Miranda. You know what I mean? Or Vukovic. Like,
don't disrespect Miranda, man. He was next level. He was great.
But like we're talking about here, like when Ba closed players down, right? Forget the counter, forget a couple of the other scares. When he was closing players down in hold up, it was 5 for 6. In the air, he's not really good this season. I mean, he was much better last season. In the air, he's not doing super well in the good. It feels like he loses almost everything. 4 for 9 in the air. He won all of his loose balls, 9 interceptions, 14 ball recoveries, and 6 clearances. That looks pretty good with the volume, but it's not acceptable when every game you have more fouls than the rest of the team. And those fouls are always dangerous. That has to stop. You know what I mean? We valued Ba over Cisse in the past because we thought Cisse was more clumsy and Ba didn't make some of those same mistakes. But now Ba, it's just like he's in there. He's a liability for me. He could be passing great. He could be winning everything. I'm always going to be worried about that.
No, I start to worry when I see Bar in the lineup now, because despite the fact we know he has that ability. He is very, very, before he was so talented and so solid for us at the back, and now he's become arguably more of a liability than Cisse, because at least with Cisse, he's got an error in him, but Cisse still gives that 110% every time. Like Cisse went on loan to a top 5 league team. He went to Ligue 1. And he could have, Cisse arguably could have pushed for a move from that, but he's decided to come back and commit to the team. And yeah, sure, Cisse has a gaffe now and again, but I still give Cisse a bit more credit than Bar, because at least Cisse, you can tell he cares, and he really, really goes out there every game and tries, even if he doesn't have the best of games.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And that's why we will forgive Cisse on many occasions for his clumsiness, because he puts it all out there and he does so much for this club. The clumsiness is something that will always irritate us, but at least the passion is there. And we do have a couple of comments also rolling in. Dimitri, Roni will improve for sure. Hopefully Onyekuru will do as well. Would love to see more of Koundé and Markovic. As far as the Onyekuru thing is concerned, I mean, I'm, for the amount of money we spent, I am willing to give him more time. It just is really annoying that a signing of that value, the amount of money we spent, should have more impact. He hasn't settled in. It's been said in media that he hasn't settled in, and he's trying to integrate. He needs more time. it's frustrating, but we should be seeing more from him. I'm even more frustrated though with the latter part of that comment, which is Markovic and Koundé. There's zero excuse, first of all, for Koundé not to be seeing more time. Are you kidding me? We're gonna run Bukhalakis into the ground. He has more minutes than anybody except for Oleg. But Koundé, who's always the man, can run literally forever. He doesn't stop. He is one of the only deep midfielders besides Madi that we have that wants to get forward with the ball. And he's a good player, a solid player. We've talked about multiple times, even in my blogs, about how Koundé himself makes our pressing intensity that much better. He should be playing more. And I am also very frustrated with how we handled Markovic too. We have been told that he was injured. So a lot of in the past couple weeks, he did pick up a knock, and that's probably why he wasn't playing. But I personally see that as more of an excuse, because how much did we see him playing before that?
Not
None.
much since the qualifiers.
Yeah,
since the European qualifiers.
Exactly. And you see how much we've come to rely on having a ball-playing center back a la Semedo. And you see how when we're in some of these European games and we're being pressed out the back and we're relying on Socrates and Cisse, who are good players, but they're not ball players like Semedo was, what happens to our possession when we rely so much being played out of the back. We need a ball-playing center back. Markovic needs to be playing because he is the best ball-playing center back that's available after Semedo, who probably isn't going to be involved with this team anymore.
No, I agree. And the Koundé thing is a shame because unlike the news about Onyekuru, Koundé feels like he's been integrated. It feels like he knows what he's doing. He knows his role. He knows how to play. We got this guy considering where we got him from. We got him for a steal, in my opinion. Like he wasn't that much money. Maybe it's a fear of that he has a bad injury in him every so often, but I mean, even at this point, he should be beyond the last 10 minutes of a game coming on. Like he should be coming on midway through a game or starting at least, So I feel the frustration because Bukhalakis is a great servant as always. Like he does his job, but how much better can he do his job when he's tired every week, when he has to play? Instead, could we, like you said, could we not have Koundé doing his job, and with that added energy that he brings and that added physicality and that that constant pressing on the ball, I think that's just something we need, especially to give him the bet, like to keep him sharp as well for the big games. I think that's important.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And Stephen, before we start to move on into man of the match and coach's grade, there's a couple comments here from Partego I wanted to address as well. Partego says, I think Giacomakis would be a perfect fit as a reference striker, and he's also Greek. I think this team is level enough to reach the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Maybe I'm exaggerating. So we'll start with the first comment, the Giacomakis thing. I see the problem with me is Giacomakis is, in terms of like the mold of striker he is, right?
He's more of a target man for me.
More of a target, more of a Hassan, right? Now, although I believe Giacomakis has better ball playing ability than Hassan does, this team right now isn't competent enough and doesn't offer enough service yet with its wing, especially with the wing play, for us to really use a prototypical point man poacher of a number 9. I don't think that's what this team, look, Tiquinho is that, right? But Tiquinho also has some ball playing ability and he never stops running. So, and we see how Tiquinho's, what's the word I'm looking for? Productivity is impacted with lack of service. He goes through some of the similar things that Hassan went through, only he's a better ball player. So I don't know. I mean, okay, he's Greek, and I'd rather have more Greeks on the team personally.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know how much I believe Giacomakis would improve this team at all. I don't know what your take is on that.
I mean, I think just based on his talent and how he played last season, he would be a great coup for us to bring in. Like, it would be really exciting to see a Greek. We haven't had I can't remember the last time we had a proper Greek, like, senior striker playing for us. It was probably Mitroglou, if I'm correct.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
I don't think he suits the system, and I think for that it would hurt us to play him. But I also don't think that he would be a downgrade by any means compared to anyone else we could get who plays in that position, who plays that role. But we'd have to then change the entire way we play to suit Giakoumakis, and it wouldn't suit us. And you know what? I'm happy he's at Celtic, and I hope he becomes the next Samaras for them. So yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool to see a Greek do well for them as well, especially in what's considered a better league. You know what I mean?
Yeah, by UEFA coefficient rankings, it is. Yeah,
exactly. Now, as for the second part of that comment, which was he believes that the quality is enough to get to Europa League. Look, if this team could play like it did against Fenerbahce or first half against PAOK, undoubtedly, this is a quarterfinal Europa League team. Undoubtedly.
Yeah,
just on the talent that we have, this is a Europa quarterfinal team. But the question is, are we going to get that out of them? And that seems to be the question over all of these games. What team are we going to get? Are we going to get the team that is moving around and actually interplaying really well, moving into space? Are people going to move to present each other? Are we going to play the system that we work the best in, a 4-2-3-1, something that's compact, gives us the ability to move forward and actually play the ball around? Or are we going to continue to do stuff that doesn't work just for the sake of change? That's the question here. The talent, it's undeniable. There is talent on this team. We have solid players, but we're all over the place with some of these changes for no reason. Stick with what works. Stick with it. Stick with what works. The players that we have, and sticking with what works, this team can do it. But we have to do what we know, and we have to do what works. It's as simple as that.
I'm with you fully, and to jump on that comment as well. Like I believe from the beginning of the season, even if we'd reached the Champions League group stages, we were good enough to, if we fell into the Europa League, which obviously we have now, that we could easily make the midway point of the knockout stages easily. Like with this team, the potential of this team is ridiculous. Like forget like the price of the squad overall. It's the most expensive team ever. Blah blah blah. Blah. But like just based on what this team is capable of, just based on talent, yeah, I believe this team is good enough, and I feel like I speak for a lot of Olympiacos fans where I don't want another what if season. I don't want another. This team could have gone further, but it didn't, and it's disappointing because we always see other teams of our caliber like having that one like glorious run, and like they remember that, and then like we haven't properly had that since. Well, we haven't had that since we reached the Champions League quarterfinals in the late 90s. Certainly in my lifetime of supporting Olympiacos, I'd like to have a run, please. I'm not asking us to win the Europa League. I'd like us to at least, get close enough for me to be like, we nearly did it,
Yeah, I definitely understand that 100%. Well, Steve, it's it's about that time. Man of the match and coach's grade. Now, for me, I had to watch this on replay. I wasn't able to watch it live. So it kind of impacts because like when you watch it live and after you just finish a game and you're giving, your emotion is a little bit more. Yeah. But when I watch it, knowing how the match turned out, it's kind of hard for me. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have a little bit of a different opinion than I would have if I watched it live. So I think that's going to slightly impact my whatever. We'll see. You go first. Man of the match and coach's grade.
Okay.
What do you got?
Man of the match. You know what? Because I've been saying it for ages, and he's finally sort of proven himself in a game. I'm going to give it to Ronnie Lopez just because of the impact he made for the team. The fact that he performed well and he played to the level that we want him to perform at. And I hope so badly that this is him kind of kickstarting his time with us and, seeing out the rest of his loan spell with us to exceed our expectations. So for me, he's man of the match. He had a good game. Didn't play the whole game, but the part he did play, he was more or less flawless for me. Martin's my grading is really lopsided. So I mean, he brought the subs on that made the difference, but I think the formation itself, like we've said, 4-3-3 against Panetolikos is not really something we want to see. And so I guess I'd give him like either a B- or a C+, because I think we won, so I'm happy. But at the same time, I think just the way we set up and the way we saw out the game and the substitutes, some impacted like El Arabi, obviously, but I feel like we needed the team to be rotated a bit more. So I'd get maybe B. I'm settling for a B-, I think.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't happy with how we lined up and how we started the game. Um, then we saw it was like 10 minutes into the second half, we had that triple change. And the triple change involved Kenny Lala, it involved Mari Camara and Rony Lopez all leaving, with the introduction of El Arabi, Valbuena, and Adrutsos. So we saw that triple change, and after that triple change, that 4-3-3 really became a 4-4-2. And it was something I understood, again, because I knew what the outcome already was going to be. It made sense because, look, we were on the front foot. They really weren't challenging us too much. There was a lot that was being stifled for them, at least coming forward, besides the Veracruz goal. So I thought, look, a 4-4-2 might make sense. Get an extra striker, an extra body up there. Makes sense completely. So, and we can say that the El Arabi and Valbuena subs did have impact. You know what I mean? When they came on. Well, El Arabi scores. He scores the penalty.
And then Valbuena wins the... Well,
he wins the penalty.
We didn't even talk about that. Like, the goalkeeper he headbutts him. Like, that's a ridiculous challenge. I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah, it was a Stonewall penalty.
So if Valbuena doesn't put his body on the line, then that penalty doesn't happen. And Costa brought that up in the match ratings. If you haven't checked the match ratings out, please look on our socials. Costa does an amazing job with that graphic. He built that graphic up pretty much by himself. It's awesome. But yeah, he said the same thing. For him, man of the match was Valbuena because he put his body on the line to get us the win. Now, for me, when I determine my man of the match, my man of the match is who put us in the best position to win, whether that's by stifling the opponent's opportunities or by creating the most. And Rony Lopez is the one that created the most. Rony Lopez was the only one that really manufactured opportunities for us. And that has to be said. I think that it's perfectly reasonable for you to say Valbuena as well, because Valbuena, just putting his body on the line like that, he's the reason that was able to happen and that put us forward. It's a shame that we required a penalty to win. You don't like seeing that, but it is what it is. So that's good. And my coach's grade, we did get the win, so there's some positivity there. The change adjustment in the formation did make sense. Rony Lopez wasn't playing quite as well in the second half as he was in the first half, so I understood that. Lala's performance was not going forward, at least wasn't what you want it to be, which is probably why Adrutsos came forward, because he overlaps more. So I understood those changes, but those changes didn't really make me feel like we were playing amazing. But we won, so I'm just going to say a solid B. It was an ugly B. And I think that might, and I'm prefacing this by saying, because I knew the outcome of the game, I was less irritated with certain things, and that's probably why I'm being a little bit more lenient. Maybe if I didn't know the outcome, maybe I would say C. I don't know, but I'll leave it as a B for that. Now, with the win, Stephen, we are at the top of the table still with 20 points.
Yeah, it's nice to be top.
It is. It's always nice. It's not cold at the top yet. There's still some, Balk is 4 points behind, but Ike is right there nipping on our heels.
Yeah, and they're doing good.
Second place.
They're looking good with their new
exactly.
manager.
And Aris is, despite their deduction, they're making their way up there.
Yeah.
So they're doing pretty well. It has to be said. So, but it's funny to me when we sit here and we're kind of complaining about our performances. We don't think we're doing well, and we're in first place still. You know what I mean? What does that say for the quality of the league?
I don't know, because it's like, I think the quality of our team is high, but the quality of the league isn't where it should be, perhaps. I mean, it says it in how many of our teams qualified for Europe. I guess you could argue PAOK is the second best team because they reached a European competition. They have a coach who has won them the undefeated league title they won a couple seasons ago. They have a couple of really good players. And then Ike is probably third for me. But like even then, some of our biggest clubs during the early part of the season still couldn't beat teams that they should have beaten in those European qualifiers. And only now are they gaining momentum and looking good. It's a shame because maybe it would have been a different story. But right now, despite the fact the league's coefficient is rising, doesn't necessarily mean our league quality overall is better. So while that's a very long answer from me, I guess there's caveats to both. There's arguments for both, I guess, as well.
Yep. And then you also have nonsense like what happened in that match, the Ike Adis match that Lex just brought up in the comments.
Yeah.
Adis should have won on Sunday. That whole thing was a mess. Like the fact that if what they said was true, that the Ike officials were told by the ref, get him off or he's going to end up getting a red card. Like that's unacceptable. He probably should have gotten a red card.
Yeah.
Early, because that was a bone crunching tackle. And I mean, I don't know. I don't understand if anybody does listen or watch anything related to SDNA. When Gakos got on there and was trying to talk about how like it was the offense foul, like it was an offensive foul on Rota. And I was like, dude, Gakos, you need to shut up, man. Like who this guy used to be like a UEFA ref and he just sounds like an idiot. But I tell you one thing, Gakos, right here, buddy, I can help you with shave that head, get it a little cleaner. You know what I mean? Get it nice and big, nice and shiny right here. Advertising just for you, buddy. You can even use our G7I NTL code just for you.
20%, that's pretty
20%, 20% for none other than the dumbest ref ever. Anyway, but yeah, it's absurd. We can even go into some of like the team metrics, right, for the standings. So there are teams, like some of the teams have scored more than we have. You know what I mean? It's not like we're leading in goal scoring.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed that, and it's not amazing, but at the same time, because we have such a good defense in comparison to the rest of the league, it's almost kind of making up for that. And I think we're averaging just under 2 goals a game, which is still
right.
good.
Well, we haven't. Here's what I'll preface it by saying: a couple of other teams like PAOK and Volos have pumped some of the smaller teams, right? They've pumped a few teams with goals. We haven't yet. Now, another thing I like to do is I like to flip the rankings and look at XG, right? Expected goals. Because I want to see like, okay, maybe they're scoring here, but is it sustainable? Are these teams scoring a lot more and creating better chances than we are? And the answer is no. We are actually, when it comes to XG, we are the highest with 14. We've scored 14 goals. Our expected goals is 13.91. The next closest is PAOK with 13.48. And then it goes down from there. And that kind of explains why some of these teams are seeing so many inconsistent results. It's because their quality of opportunities isn't as good as ours, but they're scoring some of them. So it does put some things into perspective. Now, what that says about the league is another thing. Now, the thing that, of course, is keeping us at the top is our defense. Defensively, we have been quite solid in terms of not just the goals limiting, which were, we've conceded 5 goals. Adis and Olympiacos right now have conceded the least number of goals on the season. Now, we can look at that, the expected goals allowed or expected goals conceded as well. And we're still the lowest. We've conceded 5 goals. We're expected to concede 5.5. So we're not allowing great opportunities to be scored against us. And we're also just not allowing those opportunities there. So there is a reason for this. So our defense is solid. offensively, we're scoring probably what we should be. So there, say what you want about how crap we've been, but we are playing as the best team. We are the best team as it stands. The way things are going, it's just we're not getting some of those. Well, I like to call them the star power conversions.
We're not flexing our muscles like we normally would.
Exactly.
But then in fairness, Addy, if I recall from last season, we were very similar in the league. Like we would win like 2-0 here and there. Like we wouldn't score more than 2 or 3. And then all of a sudden by end of November or December, we were pumping teams like 5-0, like 5-6-0, if I recall. So maybe it's just the team slowly getting into it. I'm not quite sure, but it seems to be a pattern for me over the last couple of years, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. There's also a bunch of comments that came in. So we're going to address a couple of these. Parte go even mix in the Ethniki here. Both the Ethniki and Olympiacos need a top-class coach. This team has to fight for a European title. We are a historical one, and Greece has to get back into a competition soon. I would love for as many Greeks as possible to come, and at the base of the Ethniki is our team. It would benefit us both. Parte go, I would like that too, man. I would like that too. But, the unfortunate thing is, looking at some of the players that could be available to Olympiacos at least, what Greeks would you take in this team? Masouras right now, with the form that he's been, maybe minus the last week or so, has been arguably the most productive Greek winger, period. So what other Greek wingers would you want on our team? Okay, you know what? There's an argument to be made probably for Tsolis, but he's in England. He's in the Premier League. Hatziovanis, Limnio. Sorry, I don't want any of them near this team. What about in the midfield? What midfielder on the Greek national team would you want on this team? The only one I could think of, and it's because of his future, he'd be a future prospect, is Alexandropoulos. That's it. Just think about that. Would you want any of those center backs for the Greek national team on our team? I don't want Savelas on our team. I'm sorry. Stafilidis? Fuck no. Mavropanos maybe, but he's not. He's playing in Germany. He's not going to make it here.
And we had the chance to sign him as well when he was at BUS, and he chose Arsenal. Naturally, he chose Arsenal over us because it's the Premier League side. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Now there's another comment here, which this was something I was going to bring up before we closed out. Roman Smirnides, what about the rumors that we are looking for a ball-winning midfielder in January? Any thoughts? That annoys me. That really annoys me for a couple of reasons. Now, I understand why, because obviously the consideration is, look, we're going to be losing pretty much all of our midfielders.
Yeah.
Right. But can I ask why Vasilis Sorlis isn't going to be given a chance? So that's why we're looking at them, is because the guys are going to Copa Africa. But we have Sorlis, who looked great over the summer. He's 18 years old, sure, but you're telling me that we wouldn't be able to, we want to buy. Well, it's also not sure what type of caliber of midfielder we're going to get, if he's just going to be a rotation piece, what have you. But you have this kid with talent who looked great over the summer. Why is he not going to get a chance? That's the only thing that irks me.
My only thing with that is maybe Martins has him in mind to play intermittently for the B team, perhaps. I'm not sure how much influence Martins has over which players go to the B team, if it's just a club decision or not. But I'm with you. We all want to see our Greek talent kind of develop, and the way for them to develop is to play games, more or less. And if this was another Greek club, he'd probably get an opportunity. Panetolikos are giving opportunities to Alexandropoulos, and he's developing nicely. Balk gave opportunities to Tsolis, and look where he is now. He's in the Premier League. So it's frustrating because we do have talented players on that cusp from youth to senior level, and they aren't being given the opportunities that they possibly deserve, especially like you said, when we're losing. Like I think I counted it a couple of days ago. We're losing half a dozen players to the African Cup of Nations.
Stephen,
And
I have one more thing for you. Karbovnik can play in the midfield. When we did the deep dive, I was astounded at what I saw when he was playing at Legia Warsaw. And all we want to do is play him at right back. So look, that's my thoughts. I'm not against bringing in a depth piece to add, because injuries and things. It's good to have one anyway. That's just something. What I know is going to happen is that Solis is going to end up getting the shaft. It just frustrates me. But that's just what frustrates me about this whole process overall. Anyway, we're coming to the end of it, going a little longer than even you and I expected.
Yeah.
But any closing thoughts, Steve? How are you feeling going into Frankfurt? Scary?
Well,
scared?
Yeah, very scared. I mean, look, Frankfurt, they upon beating us, they then lost to Bochum, if that's how you pronounce it, with Lamberopoulos in a centre back, and the king himself, Stavlidis, in the squad. And then they drew with RB Leipzig, who are much higher caliber team. So that's not a terrible result for them. So we don't know what Frankfurt team we're going to get, to be honest, and we don't know what Olympiacos team we're going to get. But I hope Piraeus is the difference maker with fans in the ground. I'm not confident, but I'm hopeful, as always. I'm always hopeful, because if I'm not confident, that's something I can hold on to for us to maybe get a win.
Well, I'm right in that boat with you. So thank you everybody again for listening, especially if you made it this far. If you haven't done it already, please give us a like and a subscribe. It helps us grow this audience. The bigger we get, the more things that we can do, and the more opportunities that we can to get, whether it's players on the pod or do just more fun things, expand our capabilities with data or with just general video editing, things like that. We're trying to do all of these things so that we can make a better product for you guys and attract more people to the show. So thank you everyone again for listening. This is Gate 7 International, by the fans, for the fans.
You just listened to an episode of the Gate 7 International podcast, a podcast connecting Olympiacos fans from Brussels to Tokyo, from Toronto to Geneva. We are 4 Olympiacos fans from every corner of the world, bringing you news and interviews of the team you love in English. With new episodes twice a week, you will never miss out on the latest updates and stories of the team you love. If you liked what you heard, make sure to follow us on social media at Gate7INTL, give us a subscribe on YouTube, or even leave a review on all our podcast channels. Until next time, this is our team, our city, and our story. Θρύλος είσαι. Στο μυαλό κάτι μαγικό.